Is Acheron an Eminator? Which Eon does she follow? Those are two of the many questions we were left with at the end of the first Travelers mission in Penacony. And they originated from Aventurin's intel. She is an Eminator, he said, but who cares which Eon she follows? The Hunt, Destruction, Finality, it could be any of those because all would lead to death and destruction anyway. Not important, Aventurin said basically, focusing more on instilling the idea of Acheron equals Eminator equals bad in Trailblazer's mind. Although we didn't have to wait for long for an answer, Acheron's trailer Your Color dropped just a few days before 2.1 and the phrase Self-Annihilator could be seen sneakily written underneath her umbrella. She is a Self-Annihilator, an Eminator of Nihility. So that's it, right? Questions answered, mystery solved. That's the end of the video. Well, not quite. The fact that Acheron is a follower of Nihility opens up a whole new can of worms. For example, if IX is known to be a passive Eon, how did Acheron manage to become their Emanator? How did her hair turn white, horn gone, the only color left on her person red? What does a follower of Nihility, the path who perceives existence as meaningless, want to do with the Watchmaker's legacy? I'm here to answer some of those questions, starting with the first one. How did Acheron, or does anyone for that matter, become an Emanator of Nihility? To answer this, we need not look further than the definition of Self-Annihilators itself. Self-Annihilators are individuals who have accidentally stepped into the shadow of IX, the Nihility. The key word here is accidentally. IX is a passive Eon who cares not about existence, let alone bestowing their power to mortals, making anyone their Emanators. However, there is one creation of IX known as Shadow of IX or Shadow of Nihility that is casted across the universe and is attributed to the creation of Self-Annihilators. Those who behold and step into the shadow will lose the meaning of their own existence. It is said that the shadow of IX can appear in many forms. One such form was the Black Great Sun that appeared in Acheron's Myriad Celestia trailer. That black sun was what prompted her becoming a Self-Annihilator. Acheron came from a planet called Izumo, which was one part of dual planets that orbited around a pitch-black Great Sun. The sister planet, observed from below by the people of Izumo, was called Takamagahara, which in Japanese mythology refers to the abode of the heavenly gods and is often depicted as located up in the sky. From this divine realm descended a group called the Yaoyorozu no Kami, or simply Kami, onto Izumo. They didn't come to invade for rulership or dominance, but simply to kill. In order to defend themselves, the people of Izumo embarked on a Kami-slaying journey. Acheron was one of those people. At first, it seemed to go well. With the effort of the entire country, they managed to slay the Sovereign of Revelation and use a celestial body to forge their very first Edic Age, a sword that allowed the wielder to master the divine power of Takamagahara. 11 more of those sovereigns were slain and forged, making up the majestic 12 Sentinels. For a time, Izumo became a planet of dazzling neon light. But that wasn't enough. In the trailer, the Kami were shown to have some sort of self-healing ability, restoring their missing limbs and all that, which reminds me of Mara-struck people from the Shianzo Luofu, which is very suspicious because a dish originated from Izumo can be purchased from a shop aboard the Shianzo Luofu. Perhaps the Kami were Mara-struck people, and that was why their only purpose descending to Izumo was to kill. Anyhow, in their last attempt to resist the Kami, Izumo used the 12 Sentinels to forge two blades. One was Origin, wielded by Acheron, and the other End. Unbeknown to them, this battle was meaningless to begin with. The black sun that Izumo and Takamagahara were orbiting around was not a sun at all. It was a black hole, the shadow of Nihility. No matter who came out victorious, the Kami or Izumo, the two planets were destined to be swallowed by the black hole. And I think the moment Acheron realized this was what eventually led her to nihilism. Imagine being in her shoes for a second. You were fighting all your life for freedom, for a brighter tomorrow, losing friends left and right, believing that it would all be worth it in the end, only to find out that your entire planet had always been destined to be destroyed. The endless battle had all been for naught. It was that brief moment of despair that drew her closer to Nihility. In her desperation, Acheron accidentally stepped into the shadow of IX. She had never planned to do so, nor did she plan to succumb to it. Her conversation with Aventurin towards the end of the 2.1 quest, as well as the description of her 5-star light cone along the passing shore, support this theory. Before they parted ways, Acheron back to Penacony's golden hour, Aventurine to the real Penacony on the other side, Aventurine asked her this: why are we born into this world if it's just to die? Why do we struggle against it? Those questions rhyme with Acheron's own experience back in Izumo. Her home planet had always been destined to be devoured by Nihility. It was pointless trying to resist the kami in the first place. Aventurine was dancing way too close to Nihility, and Acheron noticed that, which was why her immediate response was, "I don't think this and never have, nor do you." In Databank, it is noted that some Self-Annihilators would conceive the idea of fighting back, vowing to do their best to cure others of Nihility in what little time they have left. And this is reflected in along the passing shore Lightcon description. There are still many roads to walk, many things to change before she arrives at the end. She reaches out and saves the drowning from the temptation of Nihility. It would have been too easy for Aventurine. He had lost his entire family and clan, plagued with survivor's guilt, questioning if his good luck had been built upon the suffering and sacrifices of his loved ones. So in a way, yes, Acheron saved Aventurine. She saved him from walking down the same path that she had that was caused by her fleeting moment of despair in the face of Nihility. She had never wanted it for herself, nor did she wish it for Aventurine. I would like to take a moment to appreciate the writing of Penacony Quest and its brilliant irony in which someone who has walked further on the path of Nihility eventually becomes the one person who saves Aventurine from nihilism itself. And that exchange with Aventurine also suggests that Acheron is one of the Self-Annihilators who have vowed to cure others of Nihility. There are still many things to change before she arrives at the end, and perhaps this is that one final request that she said was her goal for coming to Penacony. See, in Databank, it is also noted that in their effort to cure others of Nihility, some Self-Annihilators join forces with the Doctors of Chaos. Doctors of Chaos is another known faction of Nihility. While IX believes existence is meaningless, Doctors of Chaos's goal is to prove IX wrong. They're known to conduct medical examinations, studies, and treatments on Self-Annihilators. To curious you might be familiar with in the simulated universe, the sealing wax and chaos remedies are created and used by Doctors of Chaos to help Self-Annihilators regain faith in the universe, as well as restoring their confidence to have purpose back in their life. From Acheron's character story part 3, we know that she once went through such treatment. However, there is no mention of the two curios. Instead, a tincture called Revitalization 310 was used to put her to sleep, which would enable her to relive her past memories. When used on other Self-Annihilators, this helped them to find solace and rediscovered hope. However, there's only gloomy skies, crumbling cities, ruined lands, and incessant rains in Acheron's past. Remember when Acheron asked Sam whether he still dreamed of those who died because of him, and then she said that she still dreamed of the one she killed herself? Also, when she said to the unknown guy before leaving for Penacony that she was not going to Penacony to find her loved ones in the dream? Yeah, because these are her dreams, the unending battle that took place on Izumo, the eventual doom of her entire world along with everyone and everything she held dear. Quite far from happy memories they were. So this treatment didn't work on Acheron, obviously, yet somehow, Acheron was able to resist the beckoning of Nihility towards self-annihilation. In one of the simulated universe secrets, there was a record of a self-annihilator who forgot his self-annihilation agenda, but the moment he did remember, he succumbed to it immediately. Acheron, on the other hand, seems very determined with her goal, and that goal is not self-annihilation. She wants to reach Nihility's end, perhaps to break the curse of Nihility at its root. This is perhaps why Boothill, the stranger who called to Acheron's room and ended up talking to Black Swan. Remember that guy? This is perhaps why he said Acheron was a self-annihilator that should not exist. I think he said that not because it is impossible for IX to have emanators, but because the moment someone becomes an emanator of Nihility, specifically a self-annihilator, they will embark on a journey of self-annihilation. They will eventually annihilate themselves. Just like what will happen to an object that is falling into a black hole, the object's only destination is towards the singularity. Acheron is reaching that singularity because that is her fate now, but not yet. She is resisting it and along the way is helping to cure others of Nihility. This resistance is portrayed through the red color on her monochrome color scheme. See, in the theory of general relativity, when an object falls towards the event horizon, the spherical outer boundary of a black hole, It will redden in appearance and emit light more slowly. The combination of these two effects result in the object appearing reddened and fading out of sight to an external observer, but will never be seen crossing the event horizon. And I think that's interesting because when Acheron unsheathes her sword, revealing her true appearance as a Self-Annihilator, she becomes monochrome in color except for her sword and some parts of her body that are red in color. Which reminds me of what that unknown guy said to Acheron. He said that she still had a streak of color left on her person, which is the color red. That guy represents the external observer who is observing Acheron falling into a black hole. She is fading out and appearing red to him as she's closing in on the event horizon, but she is already in the black hole. She is already a Self-Annihilator, only that it would never be seen like that by the guy. By the way, I think that guy is the Doctor of Chaos whose note is in Acheron's character story part 3, because who else would know of her identity when Acheron is adamant in not sharing that little information with anyone but the person who conducts medical examinations, studies, and treatments on her. Anyway, the streak of red represents Acheron's resistance against her fate, because that is how she's perceived by people not experiencing the self-annihilation themselves. They only see her falling into a black hole, in a way resisting the gravity pulling her in, the beckoning of nihility itself. And one reason she might be doing that, one that I could think of anyway, is Freebas, and a promise that Acheron made with her before Freebas took a dive into nihility herself. Freebas was the nameless mentioned in the Pioneer Diver of Dead Waters Relic set, and she journeyed with Acheron for 30 days before she went on her one-way trip into nihility. Why did she do that, you might ask? Well, she said because Achivili had never gone as far, and obviously she wanted to travel on the road deeper and further than Achivili. Duh. Anyway, that's like her aspiration, and it is implied in Acheron's character story part 4 that Freebas was also a Self-Annihilator. She had spent countless years in the river of nihility. While she knew it might be pointless trying to reach the singularity in the black hole, though she might turn into a shallow puddle of that water in the end, there was still a lot that she could do on her journey towards that moment. No matter what, she had to go to try it. She would keep pressing forward, and she believed that Acheron would do the same. And that is perhaps the one final request Acheron was talking about. If you came across my most recent community post, you would know that I said this was gonna be a casual lore video about Self-Annihilators while we wait for 2.2? Yeah, I was wrong. There's just so many details that I wish to talk about, but some of them, such as how the Watchmaker's legacy comes into play in regards to Acheron's goal to reach nihility's end, I didn't put that in because I still didn't have a solid answer to that. Hopefully we will learn more in the upcoming patch. Hopefully. Also, thank you for your enthusiasm on the poll. I didn't know there'd be so much of you guys saying that post, and of course for letting me know that I should not procrastinate this video. And if you stick around until the end and got to this point, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.